Quarterback, Big Ben.
It's not the end of the world. If we were starting the postseason tomorrow, maybe there'd be a little bit more panic on our part. Like we got to get something figured out right now. Well, we need to get it figured out now, but the good thing is we know we've got games after these next three.
All right, Stephen A., I'm going to start with you here. This is your squad. Obviously, we know Mike Tomlin hasn't been happy with their play either. Based on how the Steelers look at this moment, are you confident they're even going to win a playoff game?
No, not at this moment. I'm not saying they're not going to win a playoff game, but as we presently stand here today, they wouldn't win a playoff game. How you going to win a playoff game when you can't run the football? You're the Pittsburgh Steelers. You got to be able to run the football. If you can't run the football, that puts even more the onus on Big Ben Roethlisberger, who's going to get some things done, but at the same time is going to be prone to mistakes. He's got his 5 wideouts. He's got Ebron and Claypool and Juju Smith-Schuster and Deontay Johnson, James Washington. We know the bevy of weapons that he has available to him, but we also know that he's prone to make mistakes. And I think when you can't run the football and you can't move those chains and you can't chew that clock and you can't give your defense some rest and you can't do those things, it's going to spell trouble for you, particularly when both Devin Bush and Bud Dupree are out. It's compromising your secondary because of your unwillingness, but incapability to get to the quarterback, et cetera, et cetera. I think all of that has a rippling effect. And if you're the Steelers, now that you've lost 2 games in a row, and the Kansas City Chiefs are clearly the number 1 seed, if you're the Steelers, okay, you may not play Buffalo, but you're either going to play Cleveland, Baltimore, Indy, or Tennessee in all likelihood. I think any of those 4 teams would be the Steelers team that has looked the way that they have looked over the last 3 weeks, probably 4 to 5 weeks. I'm not impressed. I'm not pleased. I'm quite disgusted that they have looked the way that they have looked, and they better get themselves together or they're going to get bounced out after starting the season 11-0. They're going to end up not winning one single damn playoff game, which would be a disaster. They better get their act together.
This is ridiculous. First of all, Stephen A., the Steelers can absolutely, will they? Yeah, I'm going to say they will win a playoff game. I'll say that right now. This was totally predictable. We knew that people would say the sky is falling now for the Steelers right at this point in the schedule. Their bye got messed around. First, when the Titans had COVID, they lost their later season bye. When you really want it, they had to take it in week 4. The league was going to compensate with a bye later in the season, a mini bye, right? That got compromised because then the Ravens got COVID, right? So the Steelers played 3 games in 13 days. Of course they were tired. They, by the way, the Ravens had COVID and everything. I get it. They beat the Ravens. They then lost to a surging Washington team, right? Predictable trap game after a Ravens game, emotional letdown, 3rd game in 13 days. But then they play the Bills on short rest. It's not just a regular short rest, right? It's short rest after playing 3 games in 13 days. And so their 4th game in 19 days, supposed to have 4 games in 28 days. They just basically doubled up a week is what wound up happening. Was against the Buffalo Bills, one of the elite teams in the AFC. Now, against both Washington and Buffalo, they had early game leads. In fact, they had a 14-point lead on Washington, and they had a lead early on Buffalo. But what happens this time in the season when you never got your bye and you had to double up, basically play an extra game in 4 weeks, right? What happens? You get tired. You lose the war of attrition. As the game goes on, you play worse, which is what happened. You're right. Dupree is a bad loss, and they have no run blocking, and that's not good. But they simulate the run game with these short passes from Roethlisberger, and in fact, are higher on the list in terms of time of possession than a lot of the teams with run games. I like Pittsburgh against Tennessee. I like them against Indianapolis. I like them against Baltimore. And I like them against the Browns. I think they will win a playoff game.
I think they can. I think they will if this. Look, I understand. Look, over the past 2 weeks, there's been an alarming trend with this football team, all right? And I think they know it. Mike Tomlin knows it, and they need to get it fixed. They need to get it turned around over these next couple of weeks, and starting this Monday night against Cincinnati. They have to start eliminating the number of 3-and-outs that they have and the number of drives that are ending in turnovers on offense. And that kind of speaks to, look, there's a lack of concentration and a lack of stick-to-itiveness when it comes to the running game, number two, that is happening with this football team. There's a lack of complementary football being played on the offensive side. They become very much so pass-happy. And when they are so pass-happy, they aren't being efficient in that aspect of the game because they're dropping the ball. And there is no excuse for that. I don't care how tired you are, when your bye week was, or how many games you played in how many days. Catching the football, look, as Mike Tomlin said, I expect players to make routine plays routinely. Catching the football is a routine play. That's not predicated on the amount of rest that you have. So they need to get those kind of things fixed. They need to commit themselves to playing more complementary style football in these later parts of the year and into the playoffs, because I'll tell you this, their goal is not just to win a playoff game. Their goal is to get to the Super Bowl. That's what the Pittsburgh Steelers do. And if you don't play complementary football against a team that's going to be there in the end, in that AFC title game, if you don't play complementary football against number 15 from the Chiefs, and you give him extra possessions, and you start losing the time of possession battle, and you wear out your defense that is banged up now and is missing some key components, he's going to light you on fire, and your season's going to be a disappointment, because all that Pittsburgh really wants to be judged by is Super Bowl appearances and or titles. So winning a playoff game, I understand that's the topic of discussion here. Will they win a playoff game? But it's bigger than that for them. And until they fix some of these issues that have been cropping up, in particular the past 2 weeks, they're not going to get there. They need the complementary game to really show its head right now, or rather rear its head right now, and they got to get that fixed before they head into the postseason.
Lewis, I'm going to say this, and then I'm going to ask a couple of questions here. Number one, over the last 3 years, 2018, the Steelers' run defense was ranked 31st, second to last. Last year, it was ranked 29th. Right now, they rank 31st in the league. Lewis, answer me a couple of questions in one-word answers. I would ask Max to do it, but I'm not sure he's capable of it. If you are, Max, you can chime in as well. Here's the deal. Louis Riddick, if the Steelers right now, because the question that Molly asked is, based on what we're seeing right now, Louis Riddick, would the Steelers beat the Browns? Right now? They beat the Browns right now?
Yes.
What?
It's a psychological thing. That's why I'm going to say that.
I'm stunned that you said that. They would beat Baltimore right now?
It pains me to say that, and I'll tell you why. It pains me to say that. I think it's kind of like psychological, though, more so than what they're actually showing on the field. I know that's not the answer you wanted to hear. I know it's not the answer you wanted to hear.
Okay, what about Baltimore?
But I'm going to say yes.
What about Baltimore?
No.
What about Tennessee and Indy?
Can I point something now?
No.
Go ahead.
Can I point something out? They've played Baltimore and Cleveland 3 times so far. They're 3-0 this year. The Steelers are 3-0 against those teams.
I know.
Okay, and Indy and the Titans, they're in a soft division. Usually, playoff performers don't come from those kind of divisions. The Steelers were forgetting how dominant their defense could be, and again, they're wiped out.
Who was
from
the quarterback
schedule.
for the Ravens,
Let them
Max?
get rest and let's see what happens. One time,
Who was the quarterback for the Ravens when the Steelers beat them? No. He didn't play.
RG3.
They beat them.
I'm sorry.
RG3,
If I'm wrong, I got
and then
amnesia.
RG3 got
If I'm
hurt.
wrong.
And then it was their third stringer.
Yeah. COVID.
They played them twice this year.
When all them COVID tests.
Second time was without.
Okay.
Right, the second
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
Max,
Am I making this up?
Max, the AFC South isn't soft either now. Don't say that. The Colts aren't soft.
All right. Guys, I'm being told we got to go.
No,
Sorry, hard out here. When we come back here on First Take, we got some NBA.